Book launch.
Check, check. Check, check. Check, check. Check.
Next up, we have a book launch by the name of वक्त की शाख पर टांगे लम्हे, written by Dr. Lata Singh.
Check, check.
She is a PhD. Dr. Krishna Lata Singh. She has done her PhD from Lucknow University. After her retirement from teaching, she has engaged in freelance writing. She has been honored with the Hindi Gaurav Award at the International Hindi Conference in 2015 and has been honored with the Mahadevi Verma Award at the International Hindi Conference in Paris in 2016. She has authored many books. Ma'am, I request you to come up on the stage and speak about your book.
यहाँ उपस्थित सभी गणमान्य सुधी लोगों को मेरा सादर अभिवादन। अपनी पुस्तक पे कुछ कहने से पहले सबसे पहले मैं रीजनल प्रेसिडेंट आवा और उनकी टीम का हार्दिक धन्यवाद देती हूँ कि उन्होंने इतना सुंदर और प्रतिष्ठित मंच हमें प्रदान किया है, जिसके द्वारा हम अपनी पुस्तक आप सब तक पहुँचा रहे हैं। मेरी पुस्तक वक्त की शाख पर टंगे लम्हे औद्योगिक प्रकाशन दिल्ली से अभी प्रकाशित हुई है। ये मेरा तीसरा उपन्यास है और उससे पहले मेरे 8 ग्रंथ और पब्लिश हो चुके हैं। जैसा कि आप सब जानते हैं कि हम सबका, हर देश का, हर समाज का, हर परिवार का, हर व्यक्ति का एक अतीत होता है। अतीत यानी इतिहास होता है। अतीत के ऊपर ही हमारा वर्तमान कसा जाता है कि हम कितने आगे बढ़े हैं या हम कितने पीछे हैं और हमें वहाँ तक पहुँचना है। कभी कभी हमारा अतीत ही हमको आईना बनकर ये बताता है कि हमें आगे क्या करना, हमारा मार्गदर्शक बनता है। तो अतीत के साथ चाहे जैसा भी हो, अच्छा हो, बुरा हो, कड़वा हो, मीठा हो, लेकिन उसके साथ हमें एक गर्व का भाव होता है कि हमने वो कठिन समय पार किया है। साथ ही उसके साथ हमारा एक चुंबकीय सम्मोहन होता है। तो दरअसल ये जो उपन्यास मैंने लिखा है, इसके पीछे ये सम्मोहन ही सबसे बड़ा कारण है। आज के इस समाज में जब लोग एक दूसरे को पहचानने से इनकार कर रहे हैं, किसी के सुख दुख से किसी को कोई वास्ता ही नहीं है, सब अंधे बहरे हो रहे हैं, उस समय हमारा ये वक्त की शाख पर उपन्यास आदमी को आदमी से जोड़ने की एक आस जगाता है। आज जो बिगड़ा हुआ सांप्रदायिक माहौल है, उसके अंदर सद्भाव को कायम करने की पुरजोर कोशिश करता है। स्मृतियों को तलाशती हुई मेरी अनुभूतियाँ आज के शहरी जीवन में जो मानवीय संबंधों में बदलाव आया है और शहरी बदलाव आया है, उसको बड़ी ही सफाई के साथ, ईमानदारी के साथ पेश करता है आपके सामने। इस उपन्यास की जो नायिका है कोई नहीं है, सिर्फ एक सूत्रधार है जिसका नाम मान्यता है, जिसको सब लोग प्यार से मन्ना बुलाते हैं। वो अतीत को अपने तलाशने के लिए एक खंडहर हुए अपने पुराने घर में जाती है, जिसका नाम गुप्ता मेंशन है। गुप्ता मेंशन में रहने वाले कम से कम 8, 10, 15, 20 लोगों के जीवन से वो गुजरती हुई कभी हमें हंसाती है, कभी रुलाती है, कभी गुदगुदाती है, और कभी कभी समाज की और उन लोगों की सच्ची नंगी तस्वीर को हमारे सामने प्रस्तुत करती है और हमारे दिमाग को एकदम से झकझोर देती है। ये उपन्यास हमारा आपको पराधीनता, जब हमारा देश पराधीन था और चारों तरफ भारत छोड़ो की हुंकार सुनाई पड़ रही थी और करो और मरो का जुनूनी संकल्प था और आज़ादी के प्रथम जश्न का उल्लास था, और साथ ही साथ विभाजन की विभीषिका थी, विस्थापन की त्रासदी थी, उस सब चीज़ों को उसने अपने में समाहित किया है। इस उपन्यास में हमारे आपको मिलेगा उस दौर के रहने वाले लोगों की प्रतिबद्धताएं क्या थीं, प्राथमिकताएं क्या थीं, मजबूरियां क्या थीं, संघर्ष क्या थे, आशाएं उनकी क्या थीं, अपेक्षाएं उनकी क्या थीं, निराशाएं क्या थीं, नैतिक और अनैतिक प्रेम संबंधों की परिभाषा क्या थी, जनरेशन गैप क्या था। ये सारी चीज़ों आपको मिलेंगी इस उपन्यास में, जो कि आज भी प्रासंगिक है। गंगा जमुनी जो तहजीब होती है और उसका अगर जीवंत रूप अगर आपको जीना है तो मेरे उपन्यास में आपको मिलेगा। मुझे ये कहते हुए बहुत खुशी होती है कि इस उपन्यास को पढ़कर आपको रोमांच भी मिलेगा, आपको कौतूहल भी मिलेगा, हास्य और विनोद भी मिलेगा, और हमारे देश समाज की जो बुराइयां हैं उनके प्रति आपको आगाह भी किया जाएगा, उसका समाधान भी दिया जाएगा। और ये एक उपन्यास ऐसा है जो हमारे और आपके बीच में एक आशा लेकर आता है। आज के इस वातावरण में जहां हम सब इतनी आपाधापी मनी है, एक शांत हवा के झोंके की तरह से आपको ठंडक पहुंचाता है और ये बताता है कि उपन्यास को में अंदर जो हमारे एक भावना होती है कि हमारा समाज आगे कैसे बढ़े। हर कोई चाहता है कि हमारा देश बढ़े, समाज बढ़े, परिवार बढ़े, व्यक्ति बढ़े, तो उसकी पूरी गुंजाइश इस उपन्यास में दिखाई पड़ती है। और ये उपन्यास आपको एक आश्वस्ति देता है कि जब समाज में कोई संघर्ष होता है, द्वंद्व होता है, तो उसका कोई ना कोई सार्थक और ठोस हल निकल कर आता है, जो हमारे जीवन को सबसे ज़्यादा सार्थक और स्वस्थ दृष्टि प्रदान करता है। तो ये उपन्यास मेरा अमेज़ॉन पे भी उपलब्ध है और फ्लिपकार्ट पे भी उपलब्ध है और यहाँ बुक शॉप में भी है, और उम्मीद करती हूँ कि आपको मेरा ये उपन्यास पसंद आएगा और इस पर आप अपना प्यार देंगे। धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request Mrs. Sunita Verma, Chairperson, Asha School, Western Command, to come up on the stage and do the honors and officially launch the book. Thank you so much, ma'am. Next we have the book launch of Between Worlds, A Girl's Soul and a Soldier's Heart, authored by Mrs. Anusha Raj. Ma'am, I would request you to come up on the stage and speak a few lines on your book, please. Kindly switch on the mic, please.
ऑन है ना? ओके, इट्स ऑल राइट. बड़े बड़े शहरों में छोटी छोटी बातें होती रहती हैं. So good afternoon everyone. It's a pleasure to be here at Abhivyakti season 4. I am honored to introduce my book, Between Worlds, A Girl's Soul, A Soldier's Heart, which is a collection of words and emotions that I tried to weave together into poetry. It has spanned over a span of 12 years. So 12 years ago, I met Vishal, my now husband, for the very first time. What started out as a single day of conversation, I did not really realize it at the moment that it would transform into this remarkable chapter of my life, one marked by distance, patience, but most importantly, a bond that grew stronger despite the miles between us. Vishal went on to join the National Defence Academy, embarking on his path to serve the nation, while I continued on mine. This book has been written over the various phases of our relationship that led to our marriage and as a newlywed. It's an ode to a young girl who met a boy unknown, unaware of the incredible journey that life was about to take her on. Lastly, I just would like to end with a hope that everybody who reads this book, I hope, is able to resonate with the book. Everybody who's ever loved deeply, waited patiently, and cherished every shared moment is able to connect with this book. Thank you for having me here and letting me share a piece of my life with you all here today. With great gratitude and love in my heart, I introduce you all to my book, Between Worlds, A Girl's Soul, A Soldier's Heart.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now I request Mrs. Shalini Rampal, Chairperson ASTC, to come up on the stage and kindly do the honors. Thank you so much, ma'am. Congratulations to you.
And now, to take the program forward, we have a panel discussion on the topic Publishing Pathways Navigating the Industry with Mr. Kanish Gupta and Mrs. Sahana Ahmed. The moderator Mr. Hardeep Singh Chandpuri is a renowned radio personality and has hosted more than 10,000 shows in more than 10 countries. He is also the features head of the Daily Guardian newspaper. May I request Mr. Kanish Gupta, Mrs. Sahana Ahmed and Mr. Hardeep Singh Chandpuri to come up on the stage. Mr. Hardeep, you may please start the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And a good afternoon to you all. And a huge thanks to AWWA, to Western Command, General Gale. For me, it's like coming back home. Since I'm a Army brat, in our earlier session, it was being mentioned that we are not brats, but why are we called brats? So my definition of a brat would be, if you break it down, it's born, raised, and transferred. So that's what we are, and we lived in that world. So it's always lovely. It's so beautiful to come back to the cantonment and meet you all. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for arranging it all. Thank you to the whole team of Western Command helping us here. And today we are very lucky to have two great professionals on either of my sides. Mr. Kanishka Gupta, he runs his own literary agency by the name of Writer's Side. He's a highly accomplished professional. He knows what book will do well, will do very well, what might do well. So we are very happy that he's here and gracing the occasion. And this is a golden chance for all you wannabe writers. You can talk directly to him. After we've had our own talk, we're going to keep the last 10 minutes for a Q&A. So if you have any questions, you're most welcome to ask. And he'll be very, very glad to answer. And on my left, we have Sahana ji. She's a wonderful author, wonderful person also, and she writes poetry, she writes fiction, has dabbled in non-fiction also, and above all, she's running a publishing house which publishes books for children. And welcome, ma'am.
Thank you
so first of all, we are an army cantonment here, always ladies first. So let's start with your writing journey.
Thank you, first of all, for such a wonderful and a very generous introduction. So for those of you who don't know me, although I have been a part of Abhivyakti since the first edition, I am also an army brat, and my writing journey started because of that. I had participated in the first short story competition by Juggernaut Publishing, and I had written a story about a little girl traveling in a special train, and all the editors, they loved it so much that they offered me a book, and that is how I became a novelist. So the story was called Zeenat Aman is Not a Soldier, and it was about the possibility of women being inducted into the army as officers, and it was based in the 70s. So the editors actually commissioned me to write a military romance. It was not something I was looking to do. I was more interested in writing literary fiction, and I veered into commercial fiction. And post that, I never thought of myself as a poet, but I was at an event related to my book, and a very well-known poetry editor, Dr. A.J. Thomas, he came up to me and he said, "Why don't you write for us?" At that point, he was leading Indian literature, the Journal of the Sahitya Akademi, and I was like, I don't write poetry at all. But because he insisted, I wrote 3 poems for them. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can do this. And that's how I also became a poet. And then I published with international magazines and journals, and that gave me some confidence that I can do this as well. And I've written a short piece for the modern love section of the New York Times. Well, it's a very long story and I don't want to take up too much time. But, I always wish I had somebody to back me up when I started, somebody like Kanishk, who would have, guided me in the right direction. So today that we have him with us, you must, aapko is mauke ka fayda uthana chahiye. So over to Mr. Chandpuri. I'll talk more about me later.
Thank you, ma'am, for the insights. So you said that you just showed your manuscript and you got a yes from them.
No.
How difficult or easy was it?
I had not written the manuscript. They liked my short story and they asked me whether I will write a book for them. I had not thought of a title. I just signed on with them with a tentative title called Combat Skirts. My commissioning editor told me बहुत ही बकवास title है, ये कभी नहीं चलने वाला. But after she read my manuscript 7-8 months later, she said yes, this is the perfect title. Anyway, the thing is, जो मैंने उन्हें manuscript submit किया था, उन्होंने उसको जैसे का तैसा print किया, publish किया. So I think that is something very rare and does not happen to a lot of people.
So we all hear horror stories of new authors going into the big publishing houses and how they are treated, and we'll come back to a little later. Over to you, Ganeshka. First of all, kindly explain to our visitors here, what is the role of a literary agent?
Yeah, so firstly I'll tell you how I got into agenting. I started out as a writer. This was early 2000 and I never thought that one day I'll become an agent. But during that time from my personal experience, realized that there was very little support system for writers. They were relying on friends, family, and publishing or editing, personal, connected to their friends and families for introduction. And at that time also, agenting as a profession did not make much sense because we only had 2 or 3 major publishing houses. There was Penguin, which has been around for a long time, HarperCollins, and Rupa Publications, which is very old. But now in 2024, we have 8 or 10 publishing houses. Most of the major multinationals have subsidiaries in India. So it started making sense for, editors or people in publishing to even branch out into agenting. So I decided to become an agent because I had a terrible experience as a first-time author. I was completely clueless. My book ended up getting published by a major publisher. It was nominated for a prize. But the role of an agent doesn't really end at the point where they find a good publisher for an author. I would say that a good agent's role starts when an author signs up with the publisher, because there are so many ways in which things can go sour between authors and publishers, be it differences of opinion over edits, differences of opinion over format of a book, whether it should be a hardback, whether it should be a paperback, cover design, blurb. Sometimes, publishers rely heavily on their marketing and salespeople who may not have read the book, but they have fixed views about, whose blurb is going to make the book move in the market, move on Amazon. So my role is to act as an intermediary and to, balance expectations on both sides. So, and now with authors becoming very savvy, authors getting connected to publishers at various forums, be it JLF, be it Bangalore Lit Fest, because many of these festivals have, these lit marts, where authors are allowed to pitch their works in progress to publishers. It's important for agents to up their game and also get actively involved in marketing, promotions, pitching their authors to festival directors, because a major publisher like a Penguin or a Harper will send a list of 500 or 200 authors to festival directors. But we can pitch our, pick and choose. So I think it's a 360-degree approach. I always say that an agent is a literary manager. We are like readers, editors, lawyers, accountants, counselors rolled into one. And this is also a very strange market. I think in India is the only market where we are competing with our own buyers. Like I'm competing, me and someone at Aleph or Penguin, no matter how well we get along, we try to, tell the author, no, sign up with us, he's going to screw you over. And the publisher will say, you don't need the agent, why are you giving them the commission? So it's a very complicated market, but now I've seen that agents, well-known authors come to agents, authors who don't need agents come to agents. So I think the equation has changed. 3-4 years ago, Hachette India was the first publisher in India who mentioned on their website that we don't want to look at unsolicited submissions, that is unagented submissions. And now, while other publishers are open to seeing unsolicited submissions, they will never get priority over submissions which are agented. And the agenting ecosystem is also quite big now. We have 7 or 8 agents. Some of the agents have struck gold, Anuj Bhari of Reading sold Amish Tripathi's, books to, I think, Westland. That was like for I don't know how many, $1 million, and it was on the front page of Times of India. I represent a Booker Prize winner. I've represented Avni Doshi, who was on the shortlist of the Booker Prize. So we have made, inroads in global publishing too.
So let's say we have a new author, a first-time author who's written the manuscript, and I'm also a wannabe author. So all authors, they fall in love with their own work. And we think that इससे पहले भी नहीं, इसके बाद भी नहीं, और आज भी ऐसा किसी ने नहीं लिखा, ना कोई लिख सकता है. So how do a brand new or a debut author contact you? Do you accept?
Yeah, so for the first 5 or 6 years or maybe longer, I relied heavily on slush piles because I don't come from a publishing background. I did not even finish my graduation. I have not worked in a publishing house for a single day. I just started my own thing after interning with an agency for 5 or 6 months. So obviously, I was not, writers were reluctant to sign up with me. They met me at launches, parties, and then they said that, we would have loved to work with you, but, what are your credentials? So we relied heavily on the slush pile, unsolicited submissions. So we were paying more attention to these submissions, but now because of my network and because of authors referring me to authors who approach them for advice for agents, I do look at the slush pile, but it has to be really, really good. I mean, the query letter has to be good. The basic submission hygiene has to be in place. No proofreading errors, no typos. The formatting has to be proper. Don't address me as dear publishing professional. Some authors reach out to me and they say that, what do you do? We don't go to doctors and psychologists, and then ask them that, what do you do? If you need help from someone, then do some research about agents. Sometimes authors are very nervous about their copyright, so they reach out to me that, we would like to work with an agent, but then you will get the copyright. This is not how it works. So be aware, do some research about agents. What do they do? What are the kind of books that they've worked on? And it's very easy now, because now if you look up Indian agents, not only will you find list of all the agents, legit agents in India, but you will also find lots of journalism, interviews, agent profiles. So it's not very difficult to do that. And also, don't be in a hurry to query publishers or agents, because once you've reached out to an agent or an editor with a draft, with a half-baked draft, then it's very unlikely that they will, consider a revised manuscript, And it's also bad for your bargaining power, not with the agent, because the agent will charge the same commission, But if you send out a half-baked manuscript to a publisher and they see potential in it, they will never offer you good terms, because they say, we'll have to spend so much time on editing and so much time and money on editing. So, and do reach out to freelance professionals. In India now, there are a lot of freelancers who are helping out with critiques, who are helping out with editing, manuscript assessments. You have, in fact, there are a lot of freelancers who are also providing services like indexing. There are freelance publicists, a lot of senior publishing professionals, publicists who've held top positions in, the publicity departments of major publishing houses. They have their own independent, marketing firms, even cover designers, because there are a lot of differences over cover design and the aesthetic of a book between publishers and authors, because publishers want the book to sell, but the authors would also like the book to look like a good, product. So, and this is where the role of an agent comes in, that you have to connect them to the right people. I mean, I can't pay a designer or a publicist from the 15% I make from an author's book, and that too when it is sold, but I can always connect them to people. So authors feel confident, they feel more assured if their agent is hands-on, accessible, and very well connected, I think, yeah.
A small tip for all newbie authors, especially the younger lot. Make sure that you have an email. I get emails, people send their manuscripts, the samples also. So I've had emails as goodboyamit, badboyamit@gmail.com, cutiepie84@yahoo.com.
Padta, frankly,
a small, just a small thing from my side as a publisher. So this would look nice, in your social media profiles. But if possible, get a simple.
Sometimes authors they write to me and then they copy 20 other agents. Huh?
Yeah, you get to know
CC
where
में
they're
डाल देते हैं. I mean, how can you do
At
that?
least be discreet. Ma'am, you write poetry on one side and you write fiction. Just across the spectrum. How do you manage that?
Like I said, it was not something by design, it just happened, and I embraced it, let's say. I actually wanted to write literary fiction when I started out. But like I was telling Kanishka earlier, I was not well, and when I got an opportunity to sign a book contract with somebody really well known, I just, took the chance, and I did not wait for guidance, let's say, from somebody who had experience in the industry. So that's something I regret. However, you're asking me how I managed to switch between different genres. So for me, a writer is a writer. If you're a writer, you should be able to write anything. Now, I don't have a literature background, but I used to teach language for a long time. So to me, an Instagram caption is as important as a submission to an international journal. In fact, the piece that actually eventually got published in the New York Times, it was an Instagram caption I had written, and then I just took a chance and I sent it to them, and it got published. So, if you are a writer, you have to pay attention to your craft, and you have to obviously learn from better people than you. So I don't think it's such a challenge to switch between different genres. A writer is a writer.
That's really wonderful. And Kanishka, I would like to ask, let's say, you pick up some historical figure, some historical writer or a poet, whom you would, if given a chance, would like to represent. Who would that be? Any of these, the big guys, William Wordsworth or a Shakespeare, anybody, whosoever.
I mean, that's like the different generation.
Yeah, but still difficult in today's times if you find that relevant.
I mean, in today's time, it will be difficult for them to sell because everybody is looking for, like fiction and literature, which is not very difficult to read and difficult to, understand, because this is publishing is going through a difficult time because there is so much competition, from other media, from OTT, and, the attention span of readers is like going down, They do want to read books, they do want to buy books, but they buy the books and then they don't end up reading them only. So, so that's another thing which is worrying, that you have this festival and you have 100 other festivals. There is so much buzz around writing, publishing and books, but are books selling? If you go to any of the big festivals, that year's Booker winner, that year's Nobel laureate, all the big ticket authors, Gulzar, Javed Akhtar, their books will sell. But will a new writer sell? So why is there a disconnect between the author and the readership? And it's also, I think it has also got to do with the book as a form, because I don't understand why otherwise an Insta poet who's a celebrity on social media and who gets like 500,000, 600,000 views for any poetry that she recites on social media does not even sell 3,000 copies of the physical edition of the book. So I think that is a challenge, and it's not all doom and gloom for publishing. Publishing has survived a lot of things, including COVID. And everybody has been talking about the death of print, but I'm sorry, audio has not taken off at all. Audiobooks, nobody listens to audiobooks in India. E-books have taken off, but in certain genres only. The question is, how do you grow readership? The print runs have been the same. Fiction, 3,000, 5,000. If it ends up winning a prize, maybe 7,000, 8,000. Non-fiction will sell if it's controversial or if a very major public figure, corporate person, or celebrities involved. But how do you grow the readership? So I think that's the main question.
May I
that's why
say something here? So
Nobody knows the answer. Nobody knows what sells, what doesn't
That's
sell.
why we're doing Abhivyakti Literature Festival, just to generate interest amongst people to buy more books.
And publishers now expect authors to do all the hard work. Even before a commissioning editor takes your book to the larger team, the acquisition team and then the editorial team, वो बोलेंगे, can you send me a list of people who will blurb the book? अरे वो आपका काम नहीं है, author का काम नहीं है.
नहीं, but आजकल तो हो गया है.
Authors
So
work hard.
you're preparing your own marketing plans.
The authors work hard, the publishers work hardly. Over to you, Sahana ma'am.
No, I was just saying that Kanishka mentioned you have to be really well known if you want to sell your books. So one of my mentors, Ramesh Gunisekra, he says this, that if you want to sell your books, you have to be a big time politician, sports person, film star, or you have to be a very well known criminal. That's when your books sell.
So, Kanishka, if there is a wannabe author here, how do they contact you and what all do you want from them?
It's available online. You just go on my website. There's my
so what do
email
they send
ID.
you? They send you as a query.
Yeah. So if you so I'll tell you how we work for different genres. No agent will be open to signing up an author for a work of fiction if it's incomplete. So there's no point in sending us, a query for a work of fiction that you haven't even finished writing. So finish writing the novel, work on it, do 3 or 4 drafts, show it to, your trusted, readers, mentors, if you have any, or if you're part of any writing groups, and then query us, send us a synopsis, 3 chapters. If we like reading the 3 chapters, we will ask for more, and if we enjoy reading the book, then we will offer you a contract, representation contract. And for a work of non-fiction, it works differently. So if it's, because non-fiction, we tend to work with authors who have some sort of a domain expertise in the subject they're writing, or who've done some pioneering research, or who have access to, hitherto unknown information, about a, political figure or about a certain time in history. So in which case, normally we get them to write a detailed outline of 4,000, 5,000 words. Summary of the book, chapterization, which is always open to changing, because because when an author starts writing the book, sometimes they feel that, maybe this chapter should not be there, maybe some sections can be merged, maybe new things can be added, and that is fine. If the final book is, 30% different from the proposed, plan, it's fine. We also attach the published articles of the authors in the absence of a sample chapter. So if they've written long form in Caravan, if they've written long form in Scroll, we attach those articles so that the commissioning editor gets a sense of their writing style, and then their bio, and then we mention a tentative delivery date, because if the author needs to travel, if they need to take a sabbatical from their work, if they need to research in 10 different places, then the writing of the book may take time. So sometimes I and the publisher have waited patiently for 6 to 7 years, sometimes even 8 years for an author to finish the book. It's not ideal, but it happens, because even if you get grants, even if you win the NIF fellowship, even if you get the Homi Baba fellowship, it's not enough. If you have a family, if you have, if you're paying rent, if you have expenses. So I've seen that sometimes authors approach me and then they tell me that they are going to finish the book in 1 year, but then life happens and then they have to take up some assignment and go somewhere else, and the book gets derailed. But non-fiction can be taken to publishers on the basis of a proposal, but it depends on the domain expertise, of the author. If someone has won many journalism awards for their coverage on, the Naxal crisis or anything else, I would take that proposal very seriously. So I've just signed up Saurav Das, who's in the news because he did this caravan cover story on Justice Chandrachud. And he's doing a book which is very similar to that, but not the same subject. So now he has a lot of journalism, a lot of long form to show to the publishers. So
the publishing world today is facing many challenges, especially the e-books are there, then the voice books are there, then there's piracy is a major issue now, because once the e-book is out, you can download it from anywhere over the internet. So how is the publishing industry taking it?
I know piracy ka to I don't think there is any solution, but whenever there is, when publishers get to know that this is happening, then they do file complaints and reports. E-book supplements, physical book sales. So no publisher in India is going to take on, acquire rights to a book without e-book. So if any of you are planning to put your books out as an e-book, don't do that unless you want to publish it on your own, because ebooks and print are sacrosanct for publishers. They may not want to take on audiobook rights. They may allow the author to keep those rights, even though like 5-6 years ago there was a lot of push to make audiobooks more successful, more accessible. So you had Audible signing authors left, right, and center. Storytel, the Swedish company, also publishing audiobooks in different languages, multiple languages. And now Penguin and HarperCollins, they try and do their own audiobooks. So they don't license audiobook rights, but they reach out to studios, they find the narrator, and then they produce the audiobooks, and then they put it on their platform. The audiobooks haven't taken off really. So that's it, but still they're going to supplement or complement the hard copy of the book, Yeah, so you can look at OTT, like selling rights to production houses, films. But the problem with that is that these OTT walas, they take the rights and then they sit on them. Yeah. And they don't do anything. And most of them don't even read books, I've got query. I don't want to name these production houses. They're very well known. They reach out to me and they're like, can you send me a 50-page summary of that book? Even when they have the book, I'd rather get my author to write a new book than put together a 50-page summary of the book. So they don't read at all. So it's good to get, a production house, to option your book. But don't get into any contract in a hurry, because frankly, unless the film or series is made on the book, it's not going to have any impact on the sales. And sometimes even a film or a series which is very successful and based on a book doesn't have impact on sales. And this happened with a book that I represented on Upar Tragedy by Neelam and Shekhar Krishnamurthy. You know about that famous Netflix series. What was this called? I'm forgetting the name.
Carbide or something.
Yeah. So that series came out, but the book did not sell. On the other hand, when Harinder Sikka published
Calling
Sehmat with Penguin, and when Razi came out after that, the sales shot through the roof. Yeah. And Calling Sehmat was a previously published book. It was published by Konar Publishing, which is not even known for publishing fiction. And then he approached Penguin, and then the editor worked on the manuscript with him. They made a lot of changes, but उसमें भी guarantee नहीं है अगर आपका like for instance Laila by Prayag Akbar, Deepa Mehta made a Netflix film based on that, but I'm pretty sure that the sales did not increase substantially because of the Netflix show. So like I said, you can't predict anything, but it is a good source of income. And many of the well-known writers, especially commercial fiction writers who are not as good as they used to be, they are now getting into screenwriting themselves, because that's a lot more money.
Yeah.
You can get 40 to 50 lakhs for writing a screenplay. Even Booker winners don't get that much money from royalties. If you are not an English Booker winner, because वहाँ पे भी there is a caste system. The English Booker winner is the real Booker winner, and any international Booker winner, even though both the prizes are the same in stature.
Ma'am, again, you started a publishing house, right? Which is doing children's books.
We've started with children's literature, yes.
Yeah, so tell us something about that, because I don't know, not many people would do that. Starting children's books are not that popular as compared to the West. So tell us something about that.
So, yes, a lot of people tell me that it was very, very silly decision to start with children's literature, but I think it comes from, see, when I was growing up, my father was posted in the most remote areas of the country. I did not have access to libraries. I didn't go to school, so books were the only comfort I had. So I think that stayed with me somewhere, and that inner child in me was the trigger for me starting with children's literature. So I'll just talk a little about Bare Bones Publishing. We are a trade publishing house, which means we pay our contributors. We do not charge anything for publishing anybody. And we have 5 books in the pipeline as of now, and I would like to mention that I was in the first ever panel of Abhivyakti in Delhi, and I had a fellow speaker with me, the then President AWWA, Mrs. Veena Naravne, and she's writing a book for us as well. So I do not want to limit ourselves to children's literature. We have an imprint for, general books for all ages, and we also have an imprint called VTRN, which aims to publish inspiring military literature, because that's big. So we've just taken baby steps as of now, but the intention is to be able to support our contributors, our writers, as much as possible, because through my own experience as a writer, I saw a lot of gaps in the industry, and I'm somebody who's a problem solver, so I thought I was solving all my problems myself. Like I was acting as my own agent for the longest time, and I then thought that why not, extend this support to other people as well. So that was the whole aim of starting Bare Bones Publishing.
Kanishka gave us the example of Harinder Sikka's book. Nobody knew who Dan Brown was till the Da Vinci Code came out. After that, his earlier books, Deception Point and all, they started selling. So that's perfectly right. You need that one little book. And you as a literary agent, do you have that uncanny sense that this book can make it, will make it, or won't make it?
Yeah, so for my sixth sense or gut instinct works better for literary books, because that's where my heart lies. Literary fiction, literary non-fiction, poetry. I've also done a lot of big commercial books, but it's difficult for me to continue working with the author. Like, I don't know whether any of you have heard of Kamlesh D. Patel. He's become really big, Daji.
Tau.
So
yes.
I was his first agent, and I remember when Heartfulness was pitched to publishers, they were like, who is he? He must be well known in the US, but nobody knows him here. Everybody said no to the book. There was one editor at Westland who took it on, and that book has sold, I think, 10 lakh copies, and it was translated by Westland into multiple languages. I was getting 8 lakhs commission every year, so you can imagine how much money that foundation must be making. Similarly, there was this book called Dhanda, How Gujaratis Do Business, Shobha Bondre. It was published by Penguin. Very, very small advance. It was published, translated from Marathi to English. So I never expected it to do well, but it sold 75,000 copies. Kanan Gill, he's a big stand-up comedian. His novel has sold 50,000 copies. So I would say my instinct works better for like literary fiction, non-fiction, and what is going to win an award. Or even for debut writers, what is going to get picked up by a publisher, because it's getting very, very hard to sell fiction to publishers. A good agent needs to know the right editor in a publishing house for a book. Just because you have access to the publisher of Penguin, you can't become an agent. There are 10 or 15 commissioning editors in Penguin. Many of them are branching out into new genres. Many of them have stopped acquiring in certain genres, and if you're not in constant touch with them, then you will lose out. Your authors are going to lose out. So instinct works, but it's very difficult to predict what's going on in the market. A lot of authors who are getting a lot of success, unfortunately, are non-writers. They are not authors. They are just very good at marketing, promoting. They indulge in all sorts of strange practices like buying back copies and, buying shelf space. Buying shelf space is not a bad idea. If you want your book to be visible in bookstores, if you want your book to be visible in all the retail stores, it's not a bad idea. But if you're buying back copies, or if you're just, if you go to the World Book Fair and stand at the entrance of the Penguin stall and you're hand selling your books, so I mean that's the problem. And these people have become really, really successful. But that's also not literature.
So as a publisher, I do meet a lot of people, So I ask them, why do you want to publish your book? So they come with their regular answers, But the best one was, क्यों किताब छापना चाहते हो आप? कहते सर सच्ची बात बताऊं मैं कि हाँ सच्ची बात था ना. कहते मेरा रिश्ता अच्छी जगह हो जाएगा because मैं published author बन जाऊंगा. मैं कहता that's the most funniest thing I've ever heard from an author. The reason why he wants to get a book published. I did.
Yeah, I think it is not a passage to fame. It's quite. I mean, I helped an author. With his first book, he's become a really big name. Uski pehli kitab must have sold, I think, 15-20 lakh copies. Ravinder Singh, he wrote I Too Had a Love Story. And he takes pride in the fact that, I published a bestseller without reading a book, I mean, you can say that as a selling point, but that's also not the ideal thing to do.
So what are the red flags? Red flags for the person who are contacting a literary agent?
Red flags, I mean, please don't work with an agent who doesn't have a good track record. They need to show you some sales, they need to convince the author that, they do know publishers, they do know editors. I mean, if they are charging you money, or some agents are charging you money just to pitch your books to publishers, that's not the done thing. And some agents are charging you money and they are taking a share from your earning. That's also not the done thing. But what is kosher, what is acceptable is for an agent to find for an agent to recommend a promising author to a freelance editor and then ask them to resubmit the manuscript. Because if I'm making 15% of an author's advance, I can't pay my editor 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh rupees to fix a bad book or a book that has potential but it's not quite there. So in that case, we ask authors to resubmit. And then we manage to sell their books. We are also heavily involved in ghostwriting. I have a bureau of ghostwriting, and so a lot of public figures and writers who have great stories to share, they reach out to me, and then we package their book together. I think it's also important for agents to be transparent. If I recommend an author to go to an editor, I'll tell them that, listen, get your book fixed. But even then, I can't guarantee that I'll be able to sell it because I'm not the publisher. I don't run the publishing house. I'm the agent. And if you say that, once you get it edited, everybody's going to make an offer. So these are wrongs. And authors are a very harassed, troubled, sensitive, neurotic, paranoid lot. So you have to really handle them with a lot of care and attention. So that's one of the red flags. Make sure that the copyright is with you. The publisher should not be allowed to take the copyright. Make sure that the publisher is not being unreasonable about, things like share from your awards earnings. I never do that. If you win an award, then the agent would be entitled to a share from the earnings. I recommend authors to work with agents on a book-by-book basis and not just give rights for everything, whatever you write for the next 5 years. Why? Just see how you work with them on the first book. If there is a good relationship, good chemistry, if it works out, then consider working with them on the next book. So these are the red flags.
And ma'am, about your views on this?
Yes, I agree completely with Kanishka. Especially, I've had a few writers approach me from the AWWA community who have told me that they are working with an agent, and I know for a fact that they charge money to be represented, and that's something that's completely a no-no. It should not be done at all. In fact, in countries outside India, it will be considered a crime. So, yes, please do not, if you ever hire an agent, get somebody to represent you, please make sure they are not charging you an upfront fee, because they will be getting a portion of, percentage of your...
And I think authors should also consider themselves as equals with publishers, because sometimes they get too intimidated at the prospect of confronting a well-known agent who has given them their first break. No, if they haven't paid you royalties in 1 year, send them a bloody notice. Just because, it's like a famous publisher who has discovered Booker winners, I mean, that has no bearing on your book and your relationship, So I think authors should also kind of be more aggressive about protecting their rights, protecting their interests. Huh?
Absolutely. In fact, I feel that there is a power imbalance when it comes to publishing. So a writer feels very, very, what is the right word here? उन्हें काफ़ी weak feel होता है और उन्हें लगता है कि we don't have any powers here. But see, if the publisher has the right to accept or reject your work, you also as a writer should reserve that right to be able to see that ये publisher मेरे लिए ठीक है या नहीं.
Royalties have to come on time. If the advance is low, and most of the time the advance is low if it's a publisher, unless the author is very big, just make sure that the royalties are paid according to the terms in the contract.
So yes, the lack of transparency is a big challenge.
So for instance, during COVID, my authors were not being paid royalties for months, and the contracts that I was signing with publishers, most of the advance was being allocated, was being paid at the time of publication of the book, because nobody was paying on signing, delivering it. There was a lot of uncertainty. So once I asked a publishing house that, have you also stopped your editors' salaries? Because all of us are living off, the creative output of writers, and the writers should be paid,
True, exactly.
Yeah.
Now we're open for any question and answers. Please, let's do a couple of quick questions. Anyone wants to ask anything? We got two professionals on either of my sides.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
My question is towards Kanishka Gupta. You have well said that nobody asks doctors or, for that matter, lawyers to what they do, what is their profession. And it's a normal question for you guys. Public ask you regularly. But still, I would ask you, what kind of innovation you have when you pitch yourself as a publishing agent to the auditor? You have said many things already, but still my question, any new innovation is there in which you can attract the more authors towards you? Thank you.
Innovations at our end, I just said that. I mean, we are very, especially when it comes to well-known writers, sought-after writers, or big books. I'm happy to include marketing clauses in my agency contract, which I've done for 2 or 3 authors until now, that we are going to be actively involved in pitching your books to production houses, pitching your books to award juries, because there are some awards that they accept submissions from agents and authors. Other than that, I don't think any innovations. I mean, one has to be hands-on. One has to give feedback to the author on the manuscript, and don't forget that sometimes we develop proposals with authors. For instance, if I run into a promising writer, say at this event, and he or she suggests an idea to me, and if I counter that with a new idea that both of us take to, and we feel that it's a better idea, then I mean there is investment from the very beginning. So and also you have to have good relationships with editors, because if you are not on good terms with publishing houses or editors in publishing houses, if you have been involved in shady deals, if you have lied to them about advances, because in publishing we do a lot of auctions, that we pitch the book to 10 or 12 publishers, and then we pit one against the other. And sometimes agents lie to publishers that, we've got an advance of 10 lakhs, can you better the offer, even though they've not got an advance or even more than 6 lakhs from other publisher. And word goes out. This is a very, very small industry. Everybody's talking about everyone else. So, so I think if an author has a good agent has a good reputation, then no publisher is going to have a problem dealing with them. Nowadays, authors come to me for representation after they have received an offer from a publisher and after they have accepted that offer, because despite that, they want an agent to be on the side.
Any last question before we wrap up? Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Now, knowing about the high cost of publishing and running after publishers, a lot of publishing houses have started this concept of self-publishing. What is your take on that? What are the pros and cons involved?
See, self-publishing has a big credibility crisis. If your book is self-published, then it will not be taken seriously by any reviewers. You will not be able to get a review in Indian Express, Mint, just forget about it. There is also a distribution nightmare, I mean, self-published books are not distributed anywhere. How are you going to get into Crosswords? How are you going to get into airport bookstores, even the independent bookstores, unless you go to Bhari Sons and some other bookstores via personal connections, aapke ek kone mein 4-5 kitabein rakh denge. And I have encountered authors who've tried to strike one-on-one deals with distribution behemoths like Prakash Books, but then they run such big accounts. I mean, they're distributing HarperCollins, Penguin. Why are they going to give you as much importance as a global publishing house with thousands of books? But there are instances where self-publishing is not only advisable, but it's the only way to move forward with the book. For instance, if you want to publish a family memoir, which has no readership outside your immediate family, but you want to do it for gifting purposes. You want to print 50 copies, 100 copies. And also when authors are paranoid about losing control over their book and the different elements that put a book together, they don't want an editor to work on the book. They want complete control over the cover design. They want complete control over everything else. And many a times authors are very self-aware. They know that this kitab ka koi readership nahi hai. So they just approach a editor. The editor edits the book. They find typesetters. And then they connect with a printer. And then they publish the books. But if you have an ambition to be a serious long-term writer, do not self-publish. Because I keep getting queries from self-published authors. Which is that major self-publishing firm?
Notion.
Yeah. So I'm not saying anything bad about Notion, but what these authors do is that they publish with Notion or other publishing houses, self-publishing houses, and 1 week later they reach out to me. Oh, we published with them, but the book is not available anywhere. This and that. Now can we get a traditional deal? No, you will not be able to get a traditional deal if your book is already out there. Because if it's listed on Amazon, if there is an e-book, then it feels old to the other publishers. So be careful. And if you're a serious writer, you will never even think of self-publishing. But there are instances when you have to self-publish. For instance, so many books don't get legal clearance from publishing houses, controversial books. But then the author believes in the book, they believe in their research, their findings, then they self-publish the book, which is what Rana Ayub did with her book. And it's a self-publishing mega success. She sold lakhs and lakhs copies.
Even Ashwin Sanghi. Ashwin Sanghi.
Amish also started
but
that way,
Amish was slightly different. It was hybrid. What Amish did was he collaborated with his then agent, Anuj Bari, and then they had a tie-up with Prakash Books. So while it was hybrid publishing, the book was available everywhere because it was distributed by Prakash Books. So it was not plain self-publishing. Yeah.
So if you have any other questions, we can take them over a cup of coffee after the session. And thank you, Ganeshka. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
you
you so
for your
much.
lovely answers, and thank you for being such a lovely
much.
audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, panelists. I would request you to be seated because I would request Mrs. Vaishno Devi, Chairperson, Wellness Center, to please come up on the stage and felicitate the panelists. That was a lovely discussion. Can we have more claps, please? Thank you so much. And our moderator, Mr. Hardeep Singh. Thank you so much for the wonderfully conducted discussion. Thank you, ma'am.
Next, we have a book launch, A Picnic on a Cloud by Anisha Koti Bhaskar. She's an artist, over 15 years of experience. She likes to create rustic and textured works. She is passionate about writing for children and creating illustrations that are enjoyable. In over 12 years as a content writer, she has worked on various projects involving technical writing, instructional designing, blogging, web content, etc. She has authored Catch of the Day and Other Sibling Story, a collection of illustrated short stories, and has designed the illustrations and cover page of various books. Today, we are celebrating another feather in her cap as we announce the book launch, A Picnic on the Cloud, which is a picture book by Anisha Koti Bhaskar. Ma'am, may I please request you to come up on the stage and speak a few lines about your book.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm thrilled to be here. So my story is about a bird, Indian robin bird, who invites her friends for a picnic on the cloud. And as it happens with any group of friends, these individuals have different personalities and peculiar traits which builds the story. And very subtly, there are certain facts that are included. And the story ends with a comment by one of the main characters. And I just got a feedback that, hey, we never thought like that about a cloud. To tell you a little about picture books, they are meant for children in the age group of 3 to 8, where they are, learning to read and getting comfortable with reading. And there are a lot of bright illustrations which I have personally made because I'm an artist and I really wanted to blend the art and the writing together. I feel that children are inherently very artistic. They are always inclined towards art. So, and I cannot stop myself from engaging children using art. So that's my second attempt at bringing art and reading together. And I hope the children would enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now I request Mrs. Vaishno Devi, Chairperson AWWA Wellness Center, Chandi Mandir, to come up on the stage and launch the book officially. Ladies and gentlemen, can we hear it for Anisha Koti Bhaskar? Thank you so much, ma'am. My heartiest congratulations to you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have the book release, Wildflowers of My Heart, written by Mrs. Gunika Warle. And I request ma'am to please come up on the stage and speak about her book.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Chandi Mandir holds a very special place in my heart, as my father commanded his battalion 10 guards here, in 1978 with me as an army brat being all of 8 years old. Then, on being posted here in 2009 as an army spouse, this was home for 6 years. Thus, it is with great excitement and honor that I stand before you today to launch this beautiful collection of poetry, Wildflowers of My Heart. Poetry for me has always been a bridge between emotions and expressions, connecting me with my deepest thoughts and feelings. As army ladies, we, much like wildflowers, grow against all odds and bloom wherever we are planted, or rather posted. This book is to celebrate the resilience in each one of us. Each poem is a window into the heart and a reflection of the soul. Now I know what you all must be thinking. Another poetry book. We already have Shakespeare. Why do we need another poetry book? Well, let me assure you, this book is nothing like Shakespeare because I ran out of big words after page 2. So, Wildflowers of My Heart is a collection of poems that celebrate self-love, the intricate beauty of nature, and the power of gratitude. Each poem invites the readers to pause and see the extraordinary in the ordinary, cultivating a deeper connection with themselves and the world around them, with a focus on finding joy in simple moments and embracing life's natural rhythms. So I hope this collection, in its simplicity, resonates with each one of you and encourages you all to find and cherish those wildflowers within your hearts too. So thank you everyone for being a part of this special moment with me, and happy reading. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Excuse me, just a little word here. There are bookstalls at the back. And in this beautiful place, lovely weather today, beautiful people, I hope all you beautiful people will go and have a look at the beautiful books out there and pick up at least one. Not necessarily mine, but all the authors here who have launched the books have put in a lot of effort. They've traveled from far and wide to come here and present their books. So please show us some love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Especially your last sentence was so overwhelming because you meant for all, not for yourself alone. Thank you so much, ma'am. So I request Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Gowda, Chairperson Dental Health and Hygiene, to kindly come up on the stage and do the honors and officially launch the book. Thank you so much, ma'am. Congratulations, ma'am. And we break for tea, and then we, of course, meet again in the evening at 6:30. Good evening, everyone.